Hello and welcome to the latest traumatic experience. And this one truly is traumatizing, right?
Yeah.
Really?
And
Yeah. Well, you have to throw it in there. The whole premise of this series here on YouTube, our the Spook Show YouTube channel, is we're going through the Troma Entertainment film library, video library, however you want to frame the Troma picture. But not in any particular order like we do over on one of our other series, Hammer Horror Order, where we're literally watching them in chronological order. This is just kind of like, let's spin a wheel, see what it lands on, and then decide whether we can watch it or not. Because trauma movies can be a little more difficult to find than a lot of other movies. I'll say that. So, but we last time we spun the wheel, and it landed on Tromeo and Juliet. Now we just recently, right before we started recording, spun the wheel again to see what we're going to do when traumatic experience comes back around, and we will tell you at the end of this program what we're going to be doing next time. That should be interesting. I'm Josh, of course, and I'm joined here with the Professor Smoke, and Donnie is here as well. And this is the
Nope.
first time his face appears here on Traumatic Experience. Now, this is only the third one, so it's not like you missed 10 episodes or anything, but for whatever reason, things always happen where you weren't here for the first two, right?
Yeah. And honestly, I probably I really hate that I didn't get to come on for Toxic Avenger. That was, I mean,
That's the best. That's the benchmark. I guess Smoke, have you ever seen this before?
yeah, I've seen it probably two times before this. I mean, it's been a while though since I actually own it on DVD.
I think the obvious thing here is that this one is probably popular because of the James Gunn ties, right? Like, if you don't know much about Troma or really even anything about this movie, you may or may not have heard that James Gunn wrote this, among many other Troma things, by the way. I mean, because this is where he got his start, was Troma Entertainment. So, uh, thanks to Lloyd Kaufman, who directed this one, he helped guide James Gunn through his formative years, right? So
And I mean, back when this came out, of course, you didn't have that tie. Now you got that to go back on and say, oh, it's James Gunn. People will watch it out of curiosity based on that. Back when it came out, the only draw I guess you had, other than it being a Troma film, was that it's got Lemmy from Motorhead in it doing a little bit of wraparound stuff.
and I'd say that is one of the more other rare aspects of this, is that there actually are a couple of familiar faces here in the cast, and then like you said, there's Lemmy from Motorhead. So like usually Troma, it's mostly unknown, like New York area actors and stuff in it, right? So like you generally, unless you're familiar with watching a bunch of Troma or low budget type of flicks, you don't know who you're looking at. Like these aren't necessarily known commodities, right?
Yeah, especially in the beginning. Like as you get to this point and a little bit down the road, like Terra Firma and some of their other ones, they were, I guess, no, they had a little bit more money. Maybe they would pay out some of these cameo roles, and you would get a lot of the little cameos like that.
Now here on Traumatic Experience, we have our rating scale is the Melvin scale. So we give something 0 to 5 Melvins. So this is only, like I said, only being the third one. Our scale is currently 5 Melvins is the Toxic Avenger, and we gave Hollywood Zap 2 Melvins. So that's kind of where we are on the scale right now. Now, Donnie, you said you've seen the Toxic Avenger, but you had not watched
I had not. No.
Hollywood Zap or this before, right?
Yeah, I have not.
What's your history, or do you have any at all with Troma? Period. Like, have you seen much Troma?
I've seen the Toxic Avenger and I think the second one, but I not
Yeah,
much on
so
Trauma.
there's a certain flavor to Tromaville.
Yeah, I noticed that
I
the
was
very first shot.
Yeah, in this movie, the very first shot is it starts with a dead squirrel hung from a noose.
Literally the opening movie.
Yeah, like you get the normal Troma entrance, which we kind of knocked off when we used as our little entrance here for traumatic experience. But you get the normal Troma open, and then bam, dead squirrel hanging on a noose. So you're like, all right, well, here we go. And really, the more and more I think we'll do these, you'll kind of get the sense of what happens in a Troma movie is that it's going to be a lot of gross. There's going to be a lot of sex and nudity, right? And just that dark black humor, like that.
Yeah.
That's just that's just what you're going to get anytime you see something from Troma, right, Smoke?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And then anything else is going to be varying degrees of those things based on, and also like I said, the cameos.
One of the terms that I saw describe this one and I guess a lot of the other Troma movies was a term that was coined during the 80s called transgression. This is a transgressive flick, and basically it was kind of uh, a, a name of cinema or whatever that came from this underground New York type stuff.
Yeah, names like Richard Kern or Lydia Lunch and that type of crowd, very low budget, and like you said, transgressive, sort of offensive to be offensive. Basically, it's punk rock cinema, I guess you could say.
The perfect description of this movie is the tagline. It reads, "Body piercing, kinky sex, dismemberment, the things that made Shakespeare great." I think some highlights are Juliet. She has multiple dream sequences in this movie, and one in particular really caught my eye, so to speak. It was the she's basically dreaming she's about to have sex with I guess some Fabio type dude, right? Some dime store novel cover guy looking guy. And then he's about to they're about to go to town, and then he whips out his
Johnson.
His however that's a nice word of phrasing it. And
that's a nice normal way to put it.
Well, we'll keep it formal here on YouTube. And it's a demon. And, the thing about this is too, it's like not only is it a demon that like doesn't it have eyes and a mouth and stuff, like it's like bleh, but even that, and we're not going to show it, right? We can't show this on here. But
probably we're getting, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if we'd be here. This might be the first, the last traumatic experience if we showed it, but go check it out for yourself. Like for the budget of this movie and everything like that, man, like say what you will, but like this is like impressive for Troma standards. I was like, wow, that's almost like Nightmare on Elm Street level practical effects going on here with the old Demon Johnson.
Johnsonator, yeah.
Speaking of the budget, I'm sure there probably have been more expensive ones now, but at least at the time, this was shot in the summer of 1995 for a budget of $350,000, which I guess, like I said, at the time was one of the most expensive films in Troma history. But I think quality wise, like say what you will about what this movie is, and it's silly and goofy, right? Quality wise, though, I mean, I think the look of it looks pretty good, especially if you watch some other Troma flicks, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. It's this era, by the time they got into the mid '90s, they were I don't know who like I said, the names. We aren't going too deep into like who the cinematographer is and all this, that, and the other thing, but I mean, they did have a lot of the kind of similar look and bigger budgets, and I'm talking about this movie and Terra Firma. Maybe at some point the wheel will be kind and choose something like Terra Firma as opposed to any number of other percentage of lesser films like that. So
little Easter eggs, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, in this movie of like there's VHS tapes sitting around of other Troma movies and like posters on the wall, like posters. High, stuff like that.
Both houses.
Yeah.
Now there's one thing that I meant to do. I meant to look at this, and I kick myself now for not doing it beforehand, because I know y'all haven't seen maybe as many, but I don't know if you noticed the car wreck scene near the end, or towards the latter half of the movie or whatever. The family in the car.
Yeah.
When chaos is going on again, we're not giving spoilers out here or anything. But
that was Tyrone, the thug Tyrone, who got rolled up and killed.
Yeah. And then that car, they're in the car, and then it flips right, and then there's this big. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but you probably did. It'd be hard not to notice that the car they were driving looked vastly different than the car that goes up in the air and rolls over and then explodes. Like a whole different make and model, a whole different color car. But that's because that scene is a scene from, and I don't remember exactly which one. It could have been Toxic Avenger. I don't know if you remember that crash or not. Maybe it's Class of Nukem High. We'll have to look at this before we do the next traumatic experience. But he has reused that scene countless times in various other Troma films. It's that exact same car crash scene, but set up differently, like it did, with family. in this movie.
Yeah, Smoke. They did use that in it was Citizen Toxie, the
Oh,
Toxic Avenger 4,
yeah.
Terra Firmer, and Kabuki Man, Sergeant Kabuki Man.
Good Lord.
Maybe that was the first one. I don't know which one of those is the oldest that it first showed up in, but I know it was one of the earlier, maybe in the 80s. One of those 80s ones that it showed up in first and then just get reused and reused.
How about when Juliet drinks the potion? You know, the classic tale of Romeo and Juliet, where, you know, the story is that, like, what is it, Juliet, since she can't have Romeo, she drinks
Drinks
the poison.
the poison.
Yeah. Then Romeo shows up like, oh no, she's dead, and then he kills himself or whatever, and like it's a tragedy, right? Well, their twist on that is Juliet drinking a potion and turning into a cow woman.
To detract her suitor that her dad has set her up with, and which is a butcher, right?
Yeah, he's
First of all, he's a vegetarian or something. This is a butcher that the dad set him up with financially to as part of the. Well, it's following along from the actual Romeo and Juliet story.
Like he's trying to marry her off of wealth, and then except this guy is like a meat guy, right? He's a butcher. And man, I wish we could talk about the end, but we really can't. You don't want to give away the twist ending here. All I'll say was, I was sitting there just shaking my head, like, my God.
Yeah, it's like this is a Troma happy ending.
Yeah.
For most other people, this is just just what in the absolute fuck.
No, you know what Smoke, you know what it reminded me of was a little bit the ending of Hollywood Zap, where it's just like, what?
yeah, true.
Okay. But you know, this one I kind of saw coming in terms of like when they have the big reveal, I'm like, okay, let's see what this flash forward is going to be. Yep, it's exactly what I thought. We didn't talk beforehand as far as like what we're going to give it on the old Melvin scale. So I guess we can kind of talk it out. Like our scale is 5 Toxic Avenger, 2 so far to Hollywood Zap. So, Smoke.
Well, I know.
What do you think?
I just like it better than Hollywood Zap, but of course not as good as Toxic Avenger. So, and I don't know if Donnie, did you get a chance to watch Hollywood Zap or not?
I didn't. So yeah, but my rating's going to be a little skewed on that.
I'm sure you'll like. I feel safe in saying that you would like this movie better than Hollywood Zap.
That should tell you what you need to know right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it definitely, like I said, we gave Toxic Avenger 5, right? Yep. 5 Melvins. Yeah. I don't think this is a 4 Melvin one, do you?
No. I'm feeling maybe a little bit more generous because of the James Gunn and the players, and some of the stuff in here is funny, although it's just over the top silliness. I'm feeling generous and saying 3 Melvins.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too.
And based on Hollywood Zap not being as good as that, so I say 3.
Jackie, I would.
Donnie, I know Donnie, your scale is going to be a little more skewed because you haven't seen that. But what do you think?
No, man, yeah, this movie was just off the fucking wall, off the rocker. Like, I mean, yeah, like I had seen Toxic Avenger like a few different times, but I am relatively new to the Troma, franchise or filmography.
Mm-hmm.
God, this was ass.
What a way to welcome you to Tromaville, honestly.
Right? Like the very first, that was oh man.
The deep end was full, because at least we got in on the 3-foot end and kind of went down to the deep end, with Toxic Avenger. You're just jumping in the deep end here.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 2.5.
All right, so I guess we'll just kind of meet in the middle. We'll average it out to 2 3/4 Melvins. How about that? Between the 3 of us, we'll just say 2 3/4 Melvins, and we'll leave it there. And then eventually we'll get more of a scale the more and more we do this over the next year.
Believe me, you're going to need a little bit of leeway with this. This is going to be one of the at least middling.
Yeah,
we're going to really much worse ones down the road.
This will end up being a highlight. I can guarantee you that. And you know what? We'll find out in 2 months when we, next month we'll hit Video Vortex, and we're going to be watching Warhead from 1996. Who knows what to expect with that? But the next time you visit us here for TROMAtic EXPERIENCE, and 2 months from now, the next one that we spun the wheel and landed on is one I'd never heard of, never seen. I feel I speak for the rest of you guys in saying that.
Yep.
We're going to be watching Doggy Tales, or Doggy Tales Volume 1, Lucky's First Sleepover. Now, this is actually a video short from Troma that came out in 2003. Once again, believe it or not, involving James Gunn, except this time he's in it. So we'll see. We'll get more of a rating scale, if nothing else. We'll get more of a barometer of where we sit with some of this stuff as we discover stuff as we go along. So, yeah,
I can tell you, our odds are pretty interesting. I think we maybe need to go to Vegas and play some, slots or something, because I don't know how many movies James Gunn did for Troma, but I got a feeling it's probably maybe just these two, or maybe one other one. I don't know.
I think I saw he was involved in a couple more actually, but like it was more like just behind the scenes type stuff.
But before the wheel to choose two in a row, it's pretty
right.
Odds, yeah.
So yeah, there you go. We're going to be talking Doggy Tale when we come back in a couple months. So we encourage you to check out everything here on the YouTube channel, including Hammer Horror and Order, Grindhouse Gutter. Those two series come out every month. Of course, we put up every week podcast episodes here. And also we encourage you to go check out aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. So yeah, that's it. So for Will, who couldn't be Will will never be here. Let's just face it. He'll never. What are the odds he ever shows his face on Traumatic Experience or just about anything else we do here on YouTube? But regardless, sometimes you hear his voice over on the podcast. For Donnie, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are from the All American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next time for Video Vortex.